more today than ever before. So you just got another 30-second slice of the pie. With that said, if this is the 11 a.m. hour Eastern time, it's the Hour of Empower live stream. And the word of the day is visualization. It's a long one. And we're always open to hearing what visualization means to you, what it could mean to others. And we really depend on your comments to drive the direction, the relevance, and hopefully create a lot of wonderful takeaways. With that, Leslie, she's been gone a couple Saturdays, and Catherine took up the mantle and was very good at it. Glad to have
Glad to have you back, Leslie.
yeah, we tried. Anyways, with that, we're back to trio. Leslie, you
Yes.
seem happy. Why don't you share what it is that you're going on in your life since people have seen you maybe here a couple weeks ago, and your first thoughts on visualization.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. Good to see you this morning. Happy Saturday, Don, Catherine. So, I'm pretty excited. I've got a couple of really fun things coming up, and one of them is about visualization. And I just finished talking about that Friday on what is today, Saturday? Yesterday on the chapter in Think and Grow Rich on decision. And I went back through all the principles, and certainly with desire and definite purpose, we use visualization. That is, bring a picture of the thing we want on the screen of our mind as though we've already got it. So on the 6th of December at 2 p.m., I'm an orator for an all-day complimentary presentation by 6 orators, and I'm the last one of the day, and I'm unbundling beliefs. So I am going to lift the kimono or the kilt on beliefs, right? With visualization, you will now know. So that's one thing. Then the next day, on the 7th, for the last 6 or 7 years, the first Thursday of every month, I go to the Women's Resource Center in a nearby county and do a presentation. During COVID, it all turned to Zoom. But we're back together again. And we don't usually have one in December, but we're doing the exploration into the mystery of Chinese face reading.
Mm.
I have done a training in this, and a pretty in-depth one, and we'll have some fun with it in terms of I'll have some pictures of stars, movie stars. And Donald, let me request that you don't ever have a facelift or get Botox. Okay, and let me tell you why. First of all, I know that it would be a waste of money. You would never invest that way. But here's the thing. What they knew about thousands of years ago, the Chinese, the doctors could not touch or palpate. So they spent years, decades, centuries determining from the external expression of an internal trauma or illness. So, for example, this is your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So if you raise your eyebrows, just as an example, if your lines, everybody has lines, right? But if they are connected, you had a very big learning in your 20s. I didn't. You see, I've got the lines, but none of them connect. So
Mine
this
are all connected.
okay, so you had lessons
Yeah.
in your 20s. And so the really fun part about this is that, well, it's a great conversation starter, obviously, but that's why don't get these removed, because the theory is they're the outward expression of the lessons you learn. And if you do Botox or you do facelifting, you have to relive them again, right? Oh, yes, because you earned those stripes. Anyway, so
Okay.
That's what I'm doing. You asked me what I'm doing. That's a couple of fun things
So
that
I
I'm
think
doing.
it's very interesting. It looks like you're continue to expand your reach into new areas and try to develop more dynamic programming.
This
Uh,
is just a special gift for these ladies. I've been going there every first Thursday for years, and we're going to exchange gifts, and I'm paying for lunch, and there'll be about 12 people. But it's a give back. But that's what's fun is that I get to create this presentation, and then 12 at 12 p.m. Catherine and I are doing a live, and I don't have my notes for the exact name of it. I could put you on the spot, Catherine, if you want, me to, but watch for information on that.
okay, so that's what day again?
12 at noon, 12 noon Eastern,
Oh, what
December 12th,
is
12
that
noon.
a weekday?
It's a Wednesday, I believe, isn't it, Catherine?
I think it's a Tuesday. I'll
Either
check.
way, it's one of those days.
It's
Okay,
one of those days.
sounds great. I hope everybody tunes in.
Me
And
too.
it's just a wonderful way of expanding programming so people can get opportunities at different times in
Mhm.
different formats. So, and that's really what this show is starting to develop into is a runway to have live streaming experience with a live supportive audience and then be able to theme or brand one's own live stream, right? Because then you get more diversity and more opportunities, and plus the knowledge share goes up
Mhm.
based on now people experiencing things in different ways. And when you do things as a give back, you're also getting a beta test to whatever it is you're doing, right? So you're sampling people in a positive way, versus just giving something and not learning anything or creating something for the future. So with that, Catherine, your turn.
Well, 12 at 12 is on a Tuesday, right? And so, yeah, that it's going to be really fun. And I know the visualization is going to be part of that, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
neither of us can get away with it because it's how we operate. And Leslie, I have to tell you, and I'll get back to what I'm doing in a minute, but when you were talking about the lines in the face,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
when I talk about myself, I talk about my real education started in my early 20s, right?
Raise your eyebrows. Let me see. Oh, you had lessons.
Oh yeah, baby.
You had lessons. See, I didn't have many. Look, see, I didn't have many. I have some,
Uh,
but they're not connected.
well,
Go
it's
ahead.
so funny, right? And so we'll get into the logistics of that maybe another day. But what
Yeah.
also when you were talking about that too, my friend Jean Worth is an intuitive and talk about fabulous talent, and she reads hands. And what right. And so every year for my birthday, she inks up my hands and we do another rendition. And it's fascinating because, when the lines are going out the ends of your fingers, it means the energy flow is free flowing and, you're working in good stead. And what's fascinating is a few years ago, I fell and broke my wrist. And all of the lines going out and the ends of my fingers disappeared.
See, it's the stuff that just because we don't know how it works yet doesn't mean it's not working.
Exactly. And that's just a testament to, the energy is in motion constantly. And we either use it and learn to work with it or we don't. Right. And that's when things get blocked up and that's when we get sick one way or another, and that leads me to the, create your ultimate mind diet, right? Because you're how you think, what you choose to think and how you talk to yourself and talk to other people. Your mind is your showrunner, is how that comes to mind for me. And so on the third Tuesday of each month, I do a little interactive, I offer some information for 10 or 15 minutes and then have, conversation
I
after.
went to that this week.
I,
I was
and,
so
I-
happy to
and
be
thank you
there.
for doing that, right? And it's just fun stuff about, some brain waves and connection and, and visualization and all of that. So, yeah, it's beginning to get some traction and I'm really having fun with it. And I love doing it, right? And so I think that's the basis of all of it. If we're not having fun, the energy is not in good flow.
Well,
So sorry, I was going to say, let's talk about visualization. Oh, but Donald, go right ahead.
let's talk about visualization.
We talk about everything except there's football games on today too. I understand.
Right.
Who needs football when you got forehead reading? Hey, are we having fun? We could just laugh and that'd be worth an hour. But
That's
we
true.
can't because we got an audience and we owe them something in return for their attendance and for their wonderful kind
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
effort. So Randy's here. When Randy's here, Randy's here. I see about 7 comments right off the bat. Thank you, Randy. Somebody needs to go back to work. Whatever that is, I'm there. I'm working. Okay, we just covered it. Here we go. Hello. Thank you. Great to see you. Kelly's here. Kelly's outstanding. She has the awesome journey on Tuesdays. And now with Leslie's program, we figured out it is a Tuesday. So we've got Hour and Power at 9. We got the franchise show at 10. We got the awesome journey at 11. And now we got Catherine and Leslie at 12. So I mean,
No.
12 at 12.
Oh, okay. You mean on December 12th? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Apology.
Yeah, I'm there. Anyways, you're too good, Leslie. You got to relax. Enjoy the show. Randy comes back with, I think it is a day that ends in Y. I'm pretty sure that's where we start. Vision. Dennis is here. I can see and hear you. I'm glad. I'm here to learn and stay open-minded. And Dennis is just a great guy. Really supports so many people. And it wouldn't be possible without a great audience. So LinkedIn is acting like doo-doo. I see no one. I know we talked about that before. I'm moving from StreamYard to Restream. I'm going every which way. I'm toggling off. I'm toggling on. I'm reading stuff. I'm getting to understand what I could be doing, but then anything switches. But here's the deal. You got to ride the rapids. You don't control them, right? And if it's happening to everybody, well, everybody's learning not to depend on any one thing. Randy comes back with, hello, Kelly, can't see you, but see you in the notification page. Another thing you can always do is go to my post and the show will be showing, but all the comments will also be on the post. Mm-hmm. So if you don't see it, and that happens, I've seen comments on the post that don't show up on the screen, comments on the screen don't show. I mean, it's all, LinkedIn should figure out, or whoever.
But if we're not paying for it, we can simply be grateful.
Yeah, but you're paying for a Restream and StreamYard if you have right. And you got to figure out what you're doing. It's hard when you're live making, it's like fixing a car when it's running. Okay, we got Carrie here. Hermit Crab was mad at the beach. He lost a signal in his cell phone. That's cute. Randy comes back with riding the rapids for sure. That's where all the action is. One more joke, Carrie. Okay, Leslie says I need to visualize. I'm going to visualize my next job fixing cell phones since that is a tiny computer and I love to fix computers. Well, why not? Right? This could be the day it all came together and no coffee. I'm telling you, Carrie, you got it covered. Give up the counting. Accept that you won. If something never affected you in any way in 2 years, you kind of figure it probably won't for the next 2. Leslie's in a good mood. Let's catch her while we can. Leslie, visualization. So far, we haven't said a word about it.
I know. We will now. I know.
It was your suggestion.
I know it was. But that's because Catherine and I are going to be talking about it. Listen, visualization is the buzzword for right now.
Mhm.
So visualization is the key to manifestation. It is the key to achieving your goals. It is the key to letting the universe know what you want and where you're headed. It's the key to vibrating at a frequency that's very high, the frequency of love and generosity and gratitude. You can use visualization to heal yourself. You can actually use it to heal others. Silva mind control, right? There is a way, we're all energy, but the power of visualization, kids have nailed.
Yeah.
Right? Because when they, for example, see a new bicycle, right, on the TV. When I was a kid, it would be in the store window. But when they see this new bike that's just been released in September for Christmas this year, or in June, doesn't matter, they already picture themselves riding it. They don't think, oh, there I am out in the distance. I'm watching myself riding my new bike. No, they go directly in the visualization. The picture they see on the screen of their mind is them riding the new bicycle. That is exciting. That raises your vibration. And that bicycle will actually move toward you at that same frequency. Plus, it feels good. The more often you see yourself riding that bicycle already here, even though you don't have it yet, the more alacrity, well, the more influence you have on speeding up the manifestation, because it's the universe listens to us based on vibration and supports us, right, by sending that bicycle to us. Kids are masters. They don't visualize in the future. Their creative imagination has them inside it when they play um, cowboys and Indians, whenever they play army or military, right? They're not observing other people doing this, they are in it. And that is where the excitement is. And the whole purpose of visualization, and I'll end with this, whatever you visualize, the associated vibration, frequency, or the way you feel sticks with the image. It's the best way that I can explain, so that when you bring the image back up, right, onto the screen of your mind, you picture yourself doing the thing, along with it comes that high vibration. And that's the purpose, is to, as often as you can, get yourself to that vibration visualizing.
Well, here's an interesting thought. If the length of time that you visualize have an effect on the appreciation of achieving that visual, right? So if you see some in a second and you get it, it didn't stick for long, right? But if you saved for 6 months and you kept envisioning this vacation or this new car, right? And you had to wait longer, work harder, you would probably enjoy it more when you received it than if it was just something that was taken for granted or easy. But that's not a question.
No, that's a good distinction. Well, let me just speak to that, because that you bring up a very important point, Donald. Sometimes you just stumble all over these points and don't even know that you really revealed a pearl inside the oyster of the conversation, right? So here's the thing. It's not how long you visualize. It's the frequency, to your point, in spaced intervals over time that you visualize. And yes, of course, you're going to appreciate it much more. So that's a very, I think so. Catherine, isn't that a powerful distinction, that it's not the length of how long I sit there visualizing, but it's how frequently I do it and how consistent I am?
I just wrote down the word consistency, right?
Mhm.
Because it makes a huge difference. And the other thing that's fascinating, I also think it depends on someone's definition of what work is, right? Because if your work often for people is a push energy, and to Leslie's point, what happens when we consistently and repetitively come up to this higher vibration that's associated with that, we're allowing that meeting to come. It's more of an allowance than working toward it, right? Because it's a coming together. And what were we talking about? Oh, when we were talking about discipline not that long ago, it depends on what someone's reference point is in regard to discipline. When I talk about work for myself, everything that I'm doing, I don't even feel like I'm working, right? Because I'm so delighted to be doing everything and learning and expanding, and I love the repetition of the visualization. But it's, of course, it's very good to evaluate what your level of repetition and consistency is, right? Because it doesn't come to fruition if you think about it just once in a while.
It's like the multiplication tables. If you
Right.
think back then, right, you didn't do them every Monday.
Right.
Or Monday, even Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You did them every day. In that instance, it was like, and nothing makes it to the subconscious mind that you believe without it being impressed into the subconscious. So you choose to repeat it. Nothing gets there without repetition. So there's no belief that we have that arrives into the subconscious that isn't using this spaced, repetitive intervals over time. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Well, wouldn't that lend itself then to having higher goals and aspirations, because that would require more consistent. In other words, there would be a return on the effort of consistency and in more intense visualization. But also, I think through visualization, you gain confidence, right? When the picture develops in front of you and you see it's within reach and you know you're capable, but you know it's not going to happen by itself, right? If something's across the street, you got to walk over. You can't call it
well,
over.
you have to meet it in the middle of the street is effectively what's happening.
Right.
Right? Like as you move toward it, it's moving toward you effectively. But the reality is, I don't know that you really are moving toward it because we don't go anywhere. So this is the latest thing about visualization. There really is no future. The future comes to us. We're not actually going somewhere and now we have the beach house. No, we're visualizing it. And then one day, God willing, this thing is in front of you, right? And so you're actually, I forgot where I was.
No, you're fine.
You're good.
And stay there for a little bit. But,
Well, when we go off on tangents, when I'm in front of an audience,
because it's free association. This is like
Yes.
like charades, right? Or like improv.
we have 3 people watching. We're down to 3.
No, don't. Actually, we got more comments already. We got over
Really?
30 comments.
Oh my God.
I'm
He's measuring.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the scoreboard every so often. We got 25 comments. We got 20 viewers. 30 minutes
Hi,
already.
everybody.
So yeah, you can't depend on what you see. But again,
Unless you can
you
visualize.
have to believe in what you feel. That's the main thing. But I think the key is everybody's visualizing something. Right?
Yes.
Now the thing is what is that something? Because to Leslie's point, you're going to attract it. It's going to attract you, and you'll probably meet in the middle, and you'll be successful at something that might not even serve you. But you visualize. I mean, just like, hey, I want to go to get a McDonald's, right? Well, sure. Just get in your car and pay the money, and you get yourself a McDonald's. But what does that serve you? Right? And if that will make you happy and content that day, then it was a wonderful thing you did. But if you're in a position where you're not happy, you're frustrated, you think you should be going further, faster, and better with better situations.
Mhm.
Is that the knowledge of knowing what you need or what you don't have, the ability to transform it into that visual, right? So, in other words, where is this place where everybody goes to? And once I understand where it is, I can figure out, do I want to go there too? But you got to know it exists, right? That bicycle in the window is only working if it's in the window. If you can't see it, you're going to see whatever else was in the window. Or you'll
Oh, but wait, the idea to fly, right? What the greatest feats that man has overcome, they had no clue how to do it. Yes. Okay. So for kids, when they see the bicycle, to your point, they know exactly what to do. They immediately start to visualize and harangue their parents. And then, oh, by the way, at Christmas time, when they open and they find the bicycle under the tree, they're shocked that oh, what a surprise, right? But they've been thinking about it. They don't know that they were attracting it. They were excited about it. Plus they were haranguing their parents.
That's interesting, because I know growing up, there were things I only knew I wanted and never told anybody, and somehow I got them. Right? I mean, my mother, I never said nothing, and all of a sudden it was there, and I could never figure out, or my aunt or whatever. But let's go to the audience, because it's getting powerful. Okay. I don't even know where I left off. Usually I put like a regular comment. Okay, so here we are. Let's go.
Dennis says Don does sometimes stumble like most humans, but he is not pointless.
Yeah, no, okay.
Dennis
I love is a lifelong member now. Okay.
Fine. Did this one already?
Yeah. Randy says we just need LinkedIn's getting a little push. Go to the post, take the time to toast, and confirming to learn more for sure. See, I was falling behind. I sometimes visualize Donald. I'll keep that open. Who knows what you'll see when it comes off. Kids do have nails, and hopefully learn to nail it and get pumped up on the new bicycle and off the education roll and avoid the toll. And I think one thing to that is, once you start to see the power and the magic of visualization, you start making it a practice, not like a coincidence. Like, I visualized that, did everything I could, and I got it. It's like, well, what if I visualize this now?
And they don't even think that. They just do it. They their creative imagination. And remember, they don't have as many beliefs yet, because kids between 6 and 8, they reach the age of reason. So their limited beliefs, like I can't do it, they don't have that. They will risk being hurt to ride that bike. They don't mind how many times they fall off, right? Whereas we have these beliefs, well, maybe I shouldn't do that again because I fell and hurt myself. So kids are that's where I actually learned how to develop the process to create new beliefs, by watching what children do before they have been filled up with a lot of beliefs, before they reach the age of reason. And right at that age of reason is when they begin to develop a conscious mind, and you can kind of see the wheels turning, right? That is when they begin to strategize. Their conscious mind has imagination, perception, intuition, memory, reason, and will. And all of those muscles, skills, ways of thinking are now starting to develop, right? And it's magical to watch what they do. And that was really the key to how to create new beliefs that serve us.
Great. I know we're always not giving Catherine enough time.
Okay,
so without building more guilt, let's turn it over to
Catherine. Don't stay in the guilt range, right?
I'm not feeling guilty. I can't
help it. Leslie has no guilt.
It's a very high vibration, so we're not going to stay there a bit, right? Right. But what's fascinating is, and to your point, Donald, about when people know how it works, right? And I think that's the key for many people, is they haven't had an exposure to how all this works. And they might hear about visualization and they go, oh, well, that doesn't work, right? and so then they go right back down to the lower vibrational
Right.
arena that they play in most of the time. And I think it's imperative for people to understand about the levels of vibration and how they operate and what it does for us, because I think that is, it's one of the basics of how we operate, how we can develop our own life experience. And I also think it's important for people to understand too about, with visualization, at the end of the day, when something didn't go quite as well or as fruitfully as you wanted it to be, you can rewrite that movie and implant that new scenario, pardon me, in your mind, and get that working in the mix of the visualization as well. Because I think many people get caught up in thinking that they've had a failure, and they allow that to seep into, their thinking across the board. Well, everything is a learning experience, and everything
Right.
is information. So, okay, let's use that. We don't have to keep repeating that. And it's not really a failure because you got that information that you can use, right? And
And
so,
yet we all believe this. If you grew up in this country, right, that F is failure. And not only is F failure, but when I was a little girl, I don't think I ever had an F, like the last thing that your parents wanted to see. But F was equated for failure, and we heard it repeatedly in spaced intervals over time. Failure is a bad thing. And what you're talking about, Catherine, for me, is the ability to choose the lesson every time.
yes.
To choose that, okay, on the other side of failure, based on the law of polarity, is the lesson. In every time, no matter how long it takes you wallowing in the failure, whatever, there you will come to the point where you see, oh, well, this actually helped me. So then the thing is to reduce the amount of time it takes you to realize that, okay, this failure, where's the lesson? Oh, there it is. Now I know how to do this a different way, right, Catherine?
Well,
Yeah.
if one can slow things down,
We're done.
and make them less dramatic, less urgent,
Mhm.
right? So the time you need to get something has to be reasonable, or you're going to deal with imbalance, right? You're going to have to take time away from something, thought away from something, action away from something. And you're visualizing more than, you've got a visualization for maybe your career. You've got another visualization for your next vacation, right? And you have options before that. I've got 4 places maybe I'll go. As you get closer, a couple of them start to filter out. So it's really having some control over the time you spend visualizing. And I think that's why people who get into meditation, get into quiet time, alone time, they can then have a little bit more intense visualization, because it's like bringing back a book, right? You turn it to the page you left off on, and you say to yourself, how do we get a happy ending here? How do we make this a positive? And then how do we bring some people along for the ride?
Oh my God, Donald, do you remember when you're 12 or 13 and you're lying to your parents to recraft a story? You did something wrong. How many times did I reshape the visualization? Like I did a bad thing. I know I was wrong, but I would recreate the story, develop a new scenario, somehow smooth off the rough edges, right? And create this fantastic story that was further from the truth, but that I was sure I could influence my parents and convince them with the lie. What is that? Like that? That's like
But again, that's everybody's family dynamics. And in my case, my grandparents helped raise us. So the only thing I had to do was be in with my grandmother, because she was like having your own protection group. If she was with you, nobody could touch you. Nobody would get involved, so
untouchable.
yeah, because you were protected, right? You had to pay through making sure everybody got everything they wanted, the way they wanted it, and how they want, and you had to play Jim Rummy for a lot of times. Eat some coffee cake at night and keep everybody company. But that was fun because you earned that too.
Mhm.
Nothing came easy or free, right? It either came with a lesson before, maybe during and after, but you learned from that experience. And just like what we're doing, the stuff we're thinking is because someone said something. And when you think of visualization, you got to also think about what you're hearing, not just what you're visualizing. Because I remember saying things I didn't know where that came from, but I ended up following it.
Yeah.
Something just came up and I said, well, I'm just going to buy that business then. And it's like, where did that come from? And then I thought, hey, that ain't a bad idea, but it just popped and it fit. And I think if everybody knows, just like our forehead beginning, that everything is changing, whether you want it or not to, is how do you get in front of it or at least stay even with it?
Mhm.
And then your visualization is more about improvement than
Sure.
getting even, or
Oh yeah, it's got you got to use it for positive, but you can use it for negative. People do that. That's how they make negative things happen, right? The bad stuff in the world, they're visualizing a story. I mean, look, and I don't want to get into this, but
don't.
two sides of any coin, right? You have your point of view. They have a different point of view. The trick is that both are accurate for that person. So
That person.
this person trying to convince the first person that their way is wrong, that this way is wrong and this way is right, that is a waste of time. It is not about being right or wrong here. It's about listening to see what new thing you might learn that might influence you or it might not. But at least you could talk,
Well, and
right?
it's important to realize that everything is changing. Everything is in motion constantly. And
All the
so, putting your stake in the sand, that's old news, right? And so I think it's really important to realize that everything is in motion. And the other thing that came to mind as you were talking, Don, is you have to participate in your own visualization, right?
yeah.
You can't just sit there and go, I'm visualizing, right? Yeah. You have to take the action steps. You have to walk across the street. You have to buy that business. Whatever it is, it requires an activity to go along with it.
Well,
Yeah, what you want is moving toward you with the same frequency you're moving toward it. So, like you said, if you're sitting on the couch, what you want is sitting on the couch. You get up off the couch, it gets up. If you start moving toward it, it starts moving toward you. So it's like this
Exactly.
mirror image,
then,
if you will.
then the question becomes, what stops people from doing it and doing it well? And the other thing is, to your point, Leslie, I'm always pragmatic with my time, right? So if I'm going to be with someone for 10 minutes, I can't solve the weight of the world in 10 minutes. So you don't even bother. You say, what can I do with what I got and who I'm with? And how do I leave somebody better than I found them? And the idea is not to fix them. Most people don't like to be told anything, and most people don't like to be told what they're not doing right. And most people start with that. Well, you could do better if you did this.
Right.
Oh, you don't know me. You don't understand. I mean, it's like a zillion things. It makes the person who seems to be superior inferior.
Yes,
And the person continues to act that way because all they have enough time is to throw out a newspaper like a delivery boy on someone's porch and leave. And that's what usually happens is just met this person, they said something to me, and now I'm stuck with it, and they're gone, right? And what the whole purpose is, that's so negative. I think once you appreciate what fun is, what pleasure is, what enjoyment is, it's much easier to categorize things to say, okay, this is going to add to that bundle over there.
Well, it's contagious, right? And when you're up in those higher vibrations, that's where the opportunities are really, coming fast and furious, right?
Well,
It's just like, whoa, this is fabulous.
you're right, because especially if you're creating out of nothing
Mhm.
visuals that, like Leslie says, I mean, people forever saw a bird fly, so they knew what flying is and what it looked like, and it was possible
Mhm.
for a bird. And if you look at the next steps, guys would put wings on their arms and flap.
That's right. That's
And
right.
maybe they get off the ground for a foot and then they'd be flying, right? And eventually it was one lesson after another. But what really happened is a lot of people at the same time started to be inventors of the same thing. Like when cars came on the road, there was hundreds of manufacturers from everywhere, and they had electric cars in 1910 actually.
Is
With-
that, Catherine, is that collective consciousness that causes that? Were people really all of a sudden now starting to build cars, or were they always thinking about it and moving toward it? And now we're aware of it. What do you think?
Well, it's what I was talking about the other day about the collective neuroscience research, right? And what's interesting is the people that were at that level of vibration, they did have a collective
Conscious.
vision, a collective understanding to a certain level of how to use that, right? And how to move forward. It's fascinating how that works.
They're on a higher thought frequency. I like to think of it like this conversation here, when we're able to go off on a tangent and extrapolate, we're on a similar thought frequency, and you can't be on two at once. So when you're with people talking like this, right, you become receptive and involved with whatever comments or whatever's going on at this same thought frequency. Anybody listening can also be on this thought frequency.
Absolutely.
Well, if they focus, if they pay attention, right? If they're not doing three things at once, I mean, and you'll pick up something, but it'll take you quite a bit of time to pick up the whole thing.
Right.
And I think the other thing is by doing this collectively, we just have to add a piece to the visualization instead of the whole thing. In other words, when it's you and you about your visual, that's what you want and that's what it should be. But if you're like, it isn't my primary interest, or I'm not really focused, but hey, give me what you got, I'll throw something in I think that'll match it.
Mhm.
And what people create is complementary visualizations and then group visualizations. But here's a cool point to the car thing. I think the reason why everybody started inventing cars at the same time is they saw the guy next door doing it. And he says, hey, if Joe can do it, I can do it.
Exactly right.
What's happening now? That's what I saw, because I've seen a lot. I've done, but I've acted on it. I got on eBay with $4 with my son. In a year, we were the biggest tool seller on eBay, and then Amazon. And
I love that story, Don. Tell that story again. I love it.
it's for $4, right?
Yeah.
And now I see, because I was on LinkedIn 3 years. I haven't missed a post in 4 years, right? I haven't missed a LinkedIn Live, who knows how many. But the point is by going through that grind of commenting, liking, connecting, all this stuff. And then I saw live stream, and even when I didn't know what it was or I was doing nothing, I can look back at my first 8 minutes by myself. And I still thought it was cool. But when I was doing it, but here's the thing. I got people, Gretchen never did one. Tara Gooch never did one. Jenny Maxwell never. I mean, everybody. And now everybody's got a show. Why? Because they saw it was easier and they didn't have to do it alone. Right? If someone says the bus is leaving, just grab a seat versus go find a bus and drive it and meet us wherever we're going. It's a whole different thing. So the idea is most people are scarcity oriented. They're majoring in the minors. They get ahead by holding people down or holding people back. And the real winners are the ones that open up all the doors, put in the tailwind, get people going. Why? Because it was good at that level. Who are they going to go with? And two, when they want to go to the next level. And now everybody's smarter for it. And everybody can teach themselves. And that's why I'm morphing this into collaboration groups of 5-6 people saying, how do we now do something together? We know each other, we trust each other, all that stuff is done. doesn't have to get redone. But like you said, let's create an event. If you had 6 people said, boom, right here, we got it. Who wants to do it?
And everybody has to want to. There has to be a similar mission and vision, right? And it sometimes takes something to do that. However, that is the key. Mastermind is the key because we share a subconscious mind. We share the ether, and that's how we get ideas from our mastermind partners for our stuff, even if they have no clue what you do. They can be listening. We are a listening vehicle, and we actually receive information for other people, right? And so your mastermind partners, this small group, are very these are the ones you want to share your ideas with, not everybody else.
No. And this is like, you got to qualify. It's not, right? And to give an example, and Carl's on the screen, Carl was one of the first to join, right? But since then, Carl put together a little outline of like a business plan, invited his first guest, which will be here Wednesday, Matt Walsh, created his word of the day, right? For this to grow, delegation is necessary, accountability. So, hey, you want a show? What kind of show? And actually, we changed it, or changing it, to every day being a show theme. Like Sundays are the reflection show. Fridays, because Jeffrey's there, is the leadership show.
Oh, yeah.
Beverly wanted the possibility show.
Well, what's our show?
Well, let me tell you.
Or do we have one?
Yeah. This one is the Mindset Saturday show. But it's just temporary. So everything's got a placemat. I'll tell you real quick. A good question.
Well, you couldn't have 2 better people for Mindset if I had picked them myself.
Yeah. So here's what we got. We got Sunday is Reflection Sunday, and half of that is always Sarah. LinkedIn Monday, so really focusing on LinkedIn and live streaming. Mm-hmm. Tuesday is Possibilities. It was going to be Transition, then Coaching Wednesdays, then live streaming Thursdays with me and Kelly, Leadership Friday, Mindset. But that'll change based on who's in it. But this way, if we have, and I'm even thinking of Women's Empowerment Group, right? Because there's so many that fit already in this community.
Send me that list, because I promote every week, and I can put in there that Monday the Empower show and put in
so we'll
LinkedIn.
Just extra complement to. So in other words, we'll have a theme for the day, we'll have a word for the day. Coaches, let's say if we make a coaching day, will be more focused on that, because I think what Harvey has proved is if you have like the franchise show, you're going to be the franchise person.
He's
right?
The franchise guy.
And as a credit to Harvey, there's 80 franchising events on LinkedIn. In 6 weeks, he became #1.
That's great.
Yeah, that's super duper.
And it's a credit to Harvey, but it's also a credit to not that many people doing it right, because one thing people have taken from this is the format.
Well, it's a credit to you too, Don. So there's no shame in being acknowledged, because he wouldn't have done it without you. Period. Well, at least not now.
But someone did what I did for me to get me into it. But here's the beauty of it: when the person who succeeds is also someone you've taught or someone you've mentored, their success associates with yours, right? And the key is, most people don't have the confidence because they think if someone gets too smart, too strong, too empowered, they won't need them anymore. Well, if there's no need for you, they shouldn't. But if you have continuing value, if you get smarter because now the questions are getting better, now the people are more experienced, because I learned in my business career, the more sophisticated the person you're talking to, the easier everything goes, right? When they know exactly everything you're talking about, and maybe even a more, now you're not even teaching, you're just starting with that. But before that, thank you. Carl, here we go with Linda. Linda's a wonderful gal. Morning visualization has changed. There's more in our face to see and choose how we visualize also. And there's too much you don't want to see out there. That if you can focus on what you do want to see, you're going to be better to yourself, right? It's quality, not quantity, for sure. And, it's progress. It doesn't matter where you are, and it really doesn't matter where you're going, as long as you're making moves and you feel like you're making progress and things are improving, because the fear and the hope of tomorrow is based on what you believe is going to happen to you and what you can make happen. And as long as you got control over your thoughts, as long as you got control over visualization, you've got an opportunity. Linda, as a child, we may have visualized that bicycle being ours, but I never heard of anyone just jumping on and going far without either training wheels or practice. And, that's the other thing. There's so many things you visualize and you work so hard for, and when you get it, it's not quite what you thought, And, but the idea was you did accomplish it, you did achieve it, and maybe you learn how to visualize by your last visualization.
They don't even know they're visualizing. What they're doing is using creative imagination, because that's a conscious faculty. So like everything we get comes in through our five senses, and it's just still there. We can reject it, we can accept it, and if we visualize it and repeat it, then it starts its trip to the subconscious mind, which is the heart of hearts that the ancient Greeks called the subconscious. And consider that your heart is 18 inches from your brain. They're two different things, but where you're heading your repetitive thoughts is into your heart. And if it's a lot of negative beliefs, that's not good for your heart.
No, and you got to have control. You got to know when to turn things on and turn things off, when to walk in, when to walk out. Because it's not just where you are, it's where you're going and who you're going to be with. And do you want to take where you just came from to somebody who really had nothing to do with it and shouldn't pay the price, versus going in with positive momentum, excitement, energy? Everything is showtime. You may not be on a big stage, you may not be getting paid, but as soon as you walk in that room, they're going to see exactly what you brought when that door opened. Right? If you're just slumping over and tired, and it's like, why don't you just come back tomorrow? I've told people, hey, you look awful, go home. You're not helping yourself or me or anybody, because people, when they stretch beyond a comfort level, it makes it uncomfortable for everybody, and I think that's where people got to decide how, time management. And then that lends itself to thought management and action management. And, what's the lineup for the day? If you had 6 acts that you're going to do today, where you're going to perform, with who, for what, and does that build something? And I think change is usually the hardest thing for people to do, especially continuous change. Most people will wait till it gets too hot to get in a cooler spot. They'll let nature take its course, versus just having thresholds to say, okay, at this point, the sun's not here, we're leaving the beach, or whatever it is. But with that said, Carl comes back. Creativity is stepping outside of what you know to something that might be. Randy says there is more than one way to skin a cat, for sure. Everything is emotion, so we should walk the talk and avoid getting lost and save the cost. That makes money and sense. There's nothing to it but to do it. Like I say, Nike always had the best one thing, just do it. Cheers, everyone. Beverly's the best on Tuesdays. Can't wait to theme out her show. And that's really cool about building another wing, adding another floor. You fortify something, you allow more people into it, because we are definitely on the right side of the street doing the right things the right way. And there's a billion people here who aren't. So subtract the 50 or 100 that you can name. Go ahead, Catherine.
Well, everything that we're talking about, when you think about it on an energetic level, right? And the people that aren't happy, the people that aren't doing the right thing, as you mentioned, that's a lot of split energy from what we're doing, right? And Leslie, when you're talking about people in a mastermind, we do receive energy and information not only for ourselves but for other people as well, but on a very similar energetic level, right? Might be a little bit, separation there because we're each energetic beings, but it's all about energy. And the people that you want to hang with are the people that aren't that far away from you on an energetic scale, right?
Oh, that's profound. So I want to ask Donald a question. You really think it's necessary to have the word or day once you've determined what the theme is for the day? The reason I ask, it's a lot to keep up with, and administratively switching those words of the day and all the admin stuff you do. I see that if you remove the word of the day in lieu of and you replace it with the theme of the day, you could save a lot of time by not having to have the word, because when we get into mindset, we could talk about a half a dozen things. What would we like to talk about? Well, we could talk about reframing. We could talk about asking good questions. I mean, there's a dozen things. And the same thing is true with Monday LinkedIn. So I see it saving you a tremendous amount of time administratively, and I think it's redundant. I don't think that when you have mindset that we need to come up with a word inside mindset.
Oh, well, I think you have a point. Everything we're doing is formative and in play right now.
Yeah.
And the goal is to turn it over to those people who are focused in that area. So if we had Coach's Corner, right, it would be with coaches about something that coaches are most interested in. And it could be, this is an area that we're going to focus on. Again, depending on the speaker or the panelists. Well, this is Jerry, and they do these wonderful courses, and they have this book. And Jerry's going to share a little bit more about how you can benefit from. Well, however, the scenario.
But they don't. But the point is that you don't have to further distinguish the conversation because you've got people that are going to be running it. They don't need to do that.
Yeah, but here's how it could work, though, is if you turn it over to the people.
Yes.
And say, hey, these are your 2 spots a month or 4.
Right.
And you're qualified to be in the coaches or the LinkedIn best practices, whatever.
Right.
Come up with who you would like to share your time with, right? If you've got somebody that you'd like to invite as a guest that isn't here or wants to be here, well, that's an opportunity. Second thing is, what's your show going to be about? In other words, to have a little bit of awareness of what's coming, so that if you say, okay, if Jerry's coming here, he's coming in this area. But the thing is, this can only grow if people take on more responsibility, and I can take on less. So
that's what I'm thinking. What you've done is you've created an opening. So nature abhors a vacuum. So right now, what's taking the place, if you will, in terms of focus and mission, is the word of the day. But it appears that what you're doing is you're switching to what's taking up the space.
Well, here's what we could do, and we're thinking out loud in front of everyone, but is that...
Well, my way is the right way, Donald. Why don't you just say yes, Leslie?
I always think, Leslie, how right were you before you learned what you now believe is right? How right will you be when you find out there's something that is even more right? Will you ever?
Okay, Catherine, now listen, you're my witness here when he drops out the word of the day, okay? Once he replaces it with the daily.
I think the key is again, if one delegates more responsibility, accountability, is what would you like to cover today? Right? And that could take place of the word. Or, hey, if it's your responsibility by 2 days before coming on, come up with the word of the day that you want, or the theme, or the area. It doesn't have to be a word anymore. It could just be, or it could be like, hey, when we get on, we get on. But, really having something people can grow and build with. And here's what I see. The big thing is, you take everything you're doing on traditional LinkedIn, okay, all your posts, all your comments, all your connecting, all that stuff, and add it all up, figure it out. And if you were to redirect that to live streaming, either by being syndicated with other people's shows and then having your own show and then having this show, because this is kind of a done for you platform, right?
That's
Where
right.
just has to show up and they're done. And whatever they do before and after is gravy, versus preparing for a show, technically dealing with a show, there's a lot. The show itself is wonderful. It's everything else that makes it hard to scale. So, but the thing is, I'm always stretching. I'm always pushing the limits because you don't know how far you can go, and I don't have any fear. So making a mistake, or there can't be a mistake. I mean, what is it?
It's only learning.
That's right. And if you're helping, and that's the beauty of it, if things organically transform the way they have, 15 new shows got launched from people who never did a show, right? And either they needed confidence, experience, skill set. So now the key is, if it took Harvey 5 months to be on a show and 2 months to have a show, how do you get it down to 2 months on a show and a month before you're number one? And all of a sudden the visualization is somebody else's success too, right?
Absolutely.
Right? You see somebody and say, hey, that person, nice person, they got a lot going, but hey, I can do what they can do.
4 minute mile.
Yeah.
Right.
And the confidence level, that's what keeps you in the game, is like, I'm on my way, just like the checks in the mail. But last thing we got to say these people agree, progress starts with pro. So true. Dennis, I don't know what you're going to do after this, but you're on fire. Showtime needs improvement to show up, not show off. And the last one here is focus does not need us, and teamwork works. Well, there's so much to support. You can be so much of a hero if you're working with a safety net. And if there's people who care about you, and you've earned that. See, that's another thing. All these shows aren't one-offs. Someone's seen Catherine 30 times or Leslie 30, 40 times, right? At that point, no one's living a lie just so one day they can trick you into something.
We're pretty authentic here.
Too authentic sometimes.
Well, what came to mind is when you're talking about the heart-brain coherence, right? And it's we each live that way, right? And it's like the smile, it's like the high energy, it's the authenticity, the smile, the high vibration, it's contagious.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is we all believe it, we all know it, and by working collectively like we are, we give each other validation for what we already have, not just for what we want to get or what we don't have. Right. So it's like, hey, if you check it off and they check it off, then I'm going to check it off with you, and I'm going to put it to bed, because you can't keep doubting yourself over and over again.
Well, and that's why going out and doing something that you've never done before and completing it goes a long way to disprove the former belief that you can't do it, right? And that you have to know how. That is not true. You do not have to know how. The Wright brothers did not know how. Right. But they proved to themselves, if they had limiting beliefs that they weren't the ones to do it, they did it. So there's a phrase about, don't tell people you did it, let them see once you've done it. Right. And so, yeah.
Well, I think the other piece is the other piece. So if you were thinking about building an airplane and somebody just invented the right engine somewhere, and now all of a sudden, hey, that was my stumble, I can just pick up that piece and I make myself complete. And I think that's the mastermind approach.
Yes.
If I'm missing this, who's got an extra? And I got a few extra pieces here if you need something. And then everybody wins together. It's only when people allow things to happen You can't sit on two sides of the fence at the same time. You can't control something and then leave it. Most people's like, when I get it, I'll do it. Well, it don't work that way. You got to give it up to make room to get it. And now you got to do what it takes to fill it in. And, there's a point where you just say to yourself, and no matter how you talk to yourself, is I'm not going to be denied. When you come to that determination, is I don't care what it takes. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to get it. Right. And some things take years. Some take lifetimes. But the bigger thing is you end up pivoting along the way anyways. Right.
Because you don't know how. So you have to pivot.
Or that was Tarzan's whole thing. Right. You got to catch the next vine or you're in the soup. Right. And as long as he kept catching the next vine, he could swing through the jungle. Or you don't want to hit the floor. I mean, hit the wall. But the thing is I love doing things just to do some, and I love people and mixing it up. And everything came from some sort of progress. But you got to learn to fail well, and learn from that and get back. It can't be I'm going to do it once. If it doesn't work, I'm gone. Right? It's got to be, well,
you didn't want it enough. It didn't have a big enough why. There wasn't a good enough reason. And sure as hell wasn't a definite thing. Right? So you will achieve it if you are clear about what you want and why you want it. The whole purpose of achieving things, right? The whole way to complete achievement is to figure out how to be motivated long enough to make it to the achievement part. Like we all have really great ideas and we start out, but what is it that has us stay motivated until the day we hold it in our hands, right? And if you're not motivated, that's why people drop off along the way. So,
well, yeah, but I think a lot of it ties into work ethic. Is someone a person of action? Is someone who likes getting up and doing stuff, right? Instead of just sitting around waiting for stuff. And the other thing is build with fun from the beginning. Too many people figure I'll work so hard and then I'll get it back. I'll have my fun. I'll have all that stuff. It's like, no, if you're creating your own design, if you're your own boss, why not give yourself all the benefits you could ever ask for, right? And in turn, give yourself the commitment to the goal to continue to support and pay for it. Because that's when, if you never get paid in any way, it's like, why am I doing this? And it doesn't have to be money. I mean, when you make a really cool meal for somebody and they take one bite and say, it's too salty, I can't eat this. It's like, what was that all about? I put all this time and thought, right? Maybe
you didn't do it for acknowledgement. You did it out of generosity.
Absolutely. But if it gets returned in a way that isn't respected or appreciated, well, you're going to cook another meal for someone else.
Well, you're right. That same person that's the lesson, right? That it won't always be appreciated, but that doesn't mean you stop doing it.
No, but I'm saying is it adds to the pleasure of doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If they're unappreciative, I'm not doing it for them again.
Well,
and that brings us back to the collective energy and the collective thought process. Because when you were talking about the Wright brothers, Glenn Curtis came to mind. Because I grew up in upstate New York, and Glenn Curtis.
Who's Glenn Curtis?
One of the pioneers in aviation, and he started out building motorcycle engines, right? And there's actually a whole Glenn Curtis museum up there with some of his early planes, right? And so whether he and the Wright brothers actually knew each other, but I mean, they were in the era of Alexander Graham Bell, and all of these people are inventing things. And so you think of the vibrational level that they're on, whether they actually know each other or not, there's still an exchange of information out and about there, right?
On that higher frequency. Exactly. And like when you are daydreaming, let's say you're watching a movie, right? And you're going along, that is on one particular thought frequency. And then you daydream. So you see something in the movie and you jump onto another thought frequency while you're daydreaming. The movie keeps going and then you come back down. And then that goes on until the end of the movie. The next time you see the movie, as you're watching it, You will not daydream at the same point. So that area that you jumped up onto another thought frequency, you missed that part of the movie.
Right.
And that's that phenomenon that says they must have added something. They must have edited something. No, you were somewhere else because you can't be on two frequencies at the same time.
Mhm.
Right. So that's kind of a same thing with a book. How many times have you started to read a page and you read it over and over because you cannot comprehend, you can't get focused,
Right.
right, or concentrate on those paragraphs, right? Your mind is flitting all over the place on different thought free. You've got to come back down, and that's the problem with the lack of focus, the loss of concentration and focus. And Napoleon Hill talks a lot about concentration with the bombardment of opportunities that are wonderful that we have, and this business of multitasking and jumping from platform to platform, it diminishes your ability to concentrate and focus.
Split energy again. Yep. I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you.
Well,
That's great.
well, I think what it also demonstrates is that you can only focus on so much at one time and be productive with it.
One thing.
Cool. And
You only do one thing at a time. You only think one thing at a time. Even computers are 0, 1, 0, 1. Right? It may look like they're doing a lot of things at once, but they're still only doing one thing, and you're only thinking one conscious thought at the time. Who's going to win?
Well, yeah, and if you're really focused, you're going to get more out of it than if you're just giving it lip service. And the other thing is, how do you feel when you're done visualizing for that moment or that 5 minutes or that 10 minutes?
Good.
Is that belief commitment stronger for it? Is it more exciting and interesting, than it would have been the other way? So you got to keep the fire burning on that side.
Yes.
Or it's so easy to lose focus and see the next shining object or hear the get rich quick scheme or how I can get someone out working for it. But that comes with community, because when you're with proactive, industrious people, it forces you to either get proactive, industrious, or be with another group, right? Because you'll always be lagging, and everybody will see what everybody is and what everybody's contributing.
Yeah.
So it's really the people who have used legitimate excuses as long-term excuses, right? Versus being able to say, listen, and it's easy to say, if it's going to be, it's up to me. What am I doing? What could I have done more? What could I have done better today? I mean, when you get to the point where you're getting down on yourself, that's like the double whammy. Just had a bad day and now I'm beating myself up when I could be fixing things. And
Okay.
one last thing.
I'm gonna be Blanche. I'm taking Blanche. She's a sex bot. What are you gonna be? What are you gonna be?
What are we talking
Betty
about?
says wishes she could give us Golden Girls a hug. So you must be Maud in the middle there, Donald.
I'm a man of 1,000 faces. What Cheney was. But I think we had a great opportunity to start with visualization. I think actually in one way, Leslie may be right. We might be outgrowing just a word, because a word kind of got us some discipline to focus.
That's right.
Right. But now our conversations are pretty much start with a word, end with something else. Doesn't matter as long as everybody's coming along for the ride.
Well, and I thought about your point too, Donald. So here's the thing. Let's say Catherine and I have a show, let's just say, right? And we invite someone in. Well, when we promote it, we're going to say we have so-and-so who happens to be an expert in X, Y, and Z. Let's have a conversation about that. So that actually is putting the responsibility on us, taking it off of you, right? And then we get to say, we may not have a guest, and we would decide to, what are we going to talk about today? We'll talk about X. And we just begin and say, this is what we're talking about. But I like the fact that you are taking away some of the administrative stuff, because I see you grappling with all the administrative tasks, and it's time for other people to take it over. I
Well,
think so.
absolutely, because the thing is I've always believed in getting better before you get bigger. A lot of people want to get bigger just because they can get more money faster, but then that sets the stage for not a very good trajectory going forward, and accommodations are made too early for the wrong reasons. So, the whole idea is turning this into a local airport, right? Where you can rent a plane, you can learn how to fly a plane, you can get your own plane and go to your own airport. It's the freedom that really gets people energized, not just the benefit, the control that I can do this. I can do this every day like Don if I want to. Just flip the switch, hope someone's watching, but you'll get more practice. And I think the other thing is like I say, the three forms of learning, or teaching, is learning, teaching, and teaching how to teach. So the next step would be having facilitators who are really good at shows coming in and taking over maybe a whole day a week, or 5 days a week. Because once the speakers are here, if I don't have to be here, I can do so much more.
We can squeeze you out so that you're never on the show again.
Listen, I tell you one thing, I've never laughed for something more to do. When someone says I can handle that, I say thank you so much, because now I'm going to be working on this. And the other thing I learned is until you've done it, you don't know what it is for someone else to do it.
That's right.
And what they have to go through and everything else. And I always believe, learn everything that you're going to be teaching somebody because you learned it. Second thing is you can take it over if you ever need to, right? It's that, and especially in technology, what I see the next step, and we're way over time, is really by gaining some grouping, it can get invested. Because I think the biggest thing is going to be in repurposing all this content, is creating playlists and shorts and have a marketing program. But by the time I would learn it, and I don't care I don't like that stuff because it's too stuffy versus creative stuff. So anyways, we went 16 minutes over. I kind of thought we were probably just us and Dennis by now. But
well, thanks for being such a great flight instructor, Don.
Yeah, we should start passing out wings pretty soon. When the kids would go to the cockpit and the pilot would give you a set of wings for your lapel or something.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, anyways, Catherine, you're phenomenal.
Thank
Lovely.
you. Good to be here with you.
For sure. I mean, and everybody is responsible for how well this is starting to spread and how this is starting to grow. And what's going to be really cool is when people start, Kelly's already got 2 things coming out. Harvey's got all kinds of opportunities. Tara, who is on a tear, I'm actually going to have her. We were talking on.
Who's Tara?
Tara Gooch.
Oh, okay.
She was the first one ever to be a guest. And she was here every Friday for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's in Forbes. She's doing speeches at NASDAQ. She got a book. She's got so much going on. And she never did a live. And it just shows you what a tailwind can do. So anyways, I'm going to get everybody. Dennis needs to eat lunch. So with that said, I'm closing out the show. Tomorrow will be me and Kelly. And we'll talk some more next week. Thank you so much, gals.